Dear crypto community and blockchain buddies across the globe, welcome back to Cryptonites, the no BS blockchain channel built with the community for the community. And today I have another amazing guest, the co-founder and CEO of SwissBorg, but also my little brother. Awesome to have you, bro.
Awesome to have you, Alex.
So I'm going to start right away with a really weird story, and I don't know if you remember this very clearly, but it marked me deeply, and it's really connected to what's happening as of today. I remember you were about 8 or 9 years old. We're in the kitchen in the south of France, Cannes-sur-Mer.
Right.
It was about dinner time, and at one point you looked at me and you asked me, Alex, do you know what a CEO is? And you're testing me. And I vaguely heard of it, but I couldn't actually tell you exactly what it meant. So I was like, yeah, of course, it's a boss. And then you're like, no, what's the acronym mean? And I was like, and I didn't know. And you taught me the word CEO. How old were you at that time?
I don't know, very young for sure.
Young, right? I think I was like 13, so probably 9 or 10 or something like that,
Yeah.
right? But very funny because if we fast forward 20 plus years, you're
Right.
CEO of one of the biggest fintech blockchain companies out of Switzerland.
Right.
So if you don't mind telling what led you to that route, it's a very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing. I don't know. I think so. It came for the character, maybe because our mom called me Cyrus, which was obviously one of those great kings of Persia. No, but more seriously, I think so. Like yourself and myself, we never, found that whatever position we were in the country, we were not like sufficient enough. We were not happy enough of what were given to us. So we always tried to find rather, a new life or new meaning to it, right? And I think so. It comes from that factor. So right after graduating from business school, started working in private banking, which was cool enough. Then shifted to do a startup, which didn't work that well. It was mainly doing arbitrage in different gaming industry. Then went to hedge funds, and I was like, okay, this is really cool, especially the fact that we were really doing machine learning and really making sure to optimize our portfolio through trading algorithms. So that was really cool. I was really happy that tech was getting involved into my job. But it's always the same thing, optimizing portfolios to, essentially make wealthy people or wealthy companies essentially, wealthier. And I get to a stage in my life, where I was like 30, 32. I was like, how long I'm still going to continue doing this? I mean, I don't like really money per se. I still live with Anthony as a flatmate. It's something that, I think I'm quite humble people, and I'm a humble person, and people know that. And I think so I got into the fintech space and realized that, how can we create, wealth management for everyone, right? And we started to look at, the robo-advisors, and we said, okay, let's do a robo-advisor. Then we quickly realized myself is that being a robo-advisor is great, but you're just changing the front end of the thing, right? You're creating these portfolios for different people, but the back end is the same old infrastructure. And quickly realized that with blockchain, everything would change. And why did I become a CEO? I think so. And at SwissBorg, to answer your question, I think so. It's just that I didn't find a company that suited me, and I think my vision could have been elaborated in a better way. And I thought that, well, let's take the venture and do it by myself, and then find other smart people that will, bring this idea to actually action and make it happen, create a real ecosystem out of it.
Yeah, I remember even as a kid and growing up, you always told me I will be a CEO one day eventually.
Right.
Do you believe that the fact that you kept on repeating it and creating some sort of self-affirmation, did that help you reach that?
I think so. Myself, we always think that visualization it's the number one thing that makes happen, right? When actually you create something or you do something, it always was created in your brain before, right? So you always do something. It's the second time you're already doing it because you already thought about it, you dreamt about it, and you build thoughts out on it. And I think so. Yeah, for sure. As a kid, I probably thought about it a lot, and I wanted to recreate a new world which would make more sense to what I thought the best utopic type of world would be.
A crazy thing, I remember visiting your apartment in Switzerland for the first time, where you're sharing rooms with Anthony. So like you said, in a more of a humble apartment. It's
Right.
not fancy at all. But one thing that really marked me were all the SwissBorg stickers and drawings and signs, from the kitchen to the toilet to the bathroom. Why did you want to do that? What was your intent of having like SwissBorg? And this was before the ICO,
Right.
by the way.
I mean, I think so. Yeah, I have a hoodie, I have a T-shirt underneath me, and soon gonna have boxers that you'll control your wealth and protect your assets as
I want a pair of those,
as
for sure.
boxers, SwissBorg. Yeah. I think so. Again, it goes to the same idea, is that you have to visualize all the time and think about our token, for example, which is the paramount and the key of our ecosystem. If you don't think about it, if you're not crazy, if you don't have some insanity or some ludicrous in you'll never make something happen. Look at Steve Jobs and all the great people. They don't think about their products or their company. They live it. And it's really important that one has to live it through, and you really have to bring hard work, but always just think about how you could do something better tomorrow within your ecosystem. And I think so. Yeah, the stickers everywhere, on my doorbell to the toilet seats. It just makes me, whenever I'm somewhere and I'm not thinking about SwissBorg, well, then SwissBorg is back again, and I'm making sure that my thoughts are well positioned to create something better. Yeah.
So do you believe that by having all these signs and stickers and posters, in some way kind of brainwashed you on a subconscious level so that you wouldn't lose focus of that image or vision that you had? Or?
I mean, it's not a brainwash. It's more like a reminder, I would say. But then after, when you're living into something and you think about it all the time, and you see those small signs, but you don't see them so often after, right? It does help to a certain point, but you don't only concentrate on those logos that are around the room. And it's true that maybe in the bedroom there's maybe too much of them, but I think so. It just reminds you, what's your mission. And it's a little bit like a uniform. You could be a policeman without having a uniform, right? But when you probably look at your badge, then you're like, okay, I'm a real policeman, right? But you don't need that. Not every policeman has a badge,
It becomes a part of your identity.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like a superhero red cap, but you could still be, Superman without having that cape. I think.
Yeah, that's really cool because, as you know, my favorite book is Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And
Right.
exactly what he suggests is what you've been doing. So auto-suggestion, repeating that you will achieve something, visualization, seeing yourself in a situation, and
Right.
and belief, right? Very, very strong
Very
belief.
strong, yeah.
So it seems very aligned with what you've done in the past. Fast forward a little further, ICO, huge success, one of the biggest ICOs out of Switzerland, right? And one thing I want to ask you is, as of today and in recent years, actually no, in the past year, many people at blockchain conferences have a big headline saying ICOs are dead, welcome STOs, or some sort of thing related to how utility tokens are not worth anything, ICOs were the past. How do you feel about those type of comments personally?
Like Anthony, yourself, other people always talk about this brilliant book of Sapiens, right? I think everything's based on valuation whatsoever. It's based on whatever people think it's about, right? So if people think that what's been working in the past will always work in the future, well, it's hard to say if that's the right model. Until today, for the last 100 years, it's great to have shares. It's something that people have been backing, been investing in it. And for them, they feel confident. The fact that if you have a security token, you have a share, you potentially could have dividends, and you're backed by essentially, a console, market authority behind it that says, yeah, that actually belongs to you. Will that continue to be like that? I don't know. I mean, first, like this thing about dividends. I mean, I don't know any good stock that almost give dividends. I mean, there's few of them, but in the technology sector, most stocks never get any dividends, and we're not. From the voting part, yeah, it's cool to vote with shares, but you can do that with utility tokens as well. So the main difference between having a share and holding a utility token is that one you could really use within the system, and it's based on trust. It's called utility token, and the other one is, essentially it's if there's any problems, you could then ask the market authority or in the country where it's listed to say, okay, this really does represent myself. But at the end, is it better to have a share of Microsoft, or is it better to have the possibility in the early 90s to get access to the whole ecosystem of Microsoft? Is this their Windows, or if it was, Office Pack, or all the new technology that's going through it? That's the question that people have to, I think, so answer. And as we see today, the biggest valuation companies are all going the ones who don't have, really shares. It's more about valuation based on network. If you're going from WhatsApp, which is $17 billion, they're not making money, to Snapchat, which is $25 billion IPO, which at the end was not making money either, but had a massive network behind it. And that's what utility tokens have. It has a massive network behind it.
So kind of what you're saying, if I could summarize that, is with the Microsoft products thing, that would be a utility token that would give you access to, like you said, Microsoft 360 or all the different software, Office, etc., the operating system.
Yeah, exactly. So do you need a share, or actually do you need to use all their technology? And that's the thing. And maybe that technology today is not worth much, but maybe tomorrow, as you'll be adding service and products, maybe that utility token could give you like a real ride and create something great out of it, and not just a pure speculation. It's a speculation accompanied that as well with a product, and as well maybe something that's creating a better vision and a better world.
Are there cases where you would like to own both the equity token and the utility token? Like any companies that you can think of where you love the company, but you also love the products?
Yeah, I mean, if the company, why not? I think that the end utility token is a better thing, because, I believe that, essentially you don't need to trust a government if it goes bankrupt, or you don't need to trust a government to say that's your share. If you're investing into a network, you trust the network.
The network, yeah.
Right?
Obviously.
So,
yeah.
But if tomorrow, why would I have a Tesla share? Well, I will have it for 4 reasons. First, because Elon Musk is fucking awesome. Second is that the fact, Tesla, it's a great stock that I bought a long time ago, and I was always happy to have a nice ride with it. Third reason is that, it's a great product behind it, right? There's great cars, so, that could be a utility token where I could use it. And obviously, he's resolving a problem that, Tesla is resolving a problem that's really great, and the mission is completely aligned with it. So that could be a reason why I'll be investing in a share, for example.
And the millennials love him, right? Elon Musk, he's like a superstar, isn't he? He's like a living god. So if you would love the CEO, the face of the company itself, and the products, you would love to own both utility and equity tokens eventually.
Right.
There's another analogy. What do you think about this? So Anthony was telling me this the other day, and in terms of utility tokens, I love his gym analogy. Has he told you about the gym analogy before?
I'm not sure, no. I think
Not
so.
sure? So yeah, the gym analogy for utility token for me is something that Anthony told me the other day, and we talked about it and really geeked off a little bit. And for me, it's a really cool analogy. It's kind of like when you buy a utility token, you're buying a membership at a gym that gives you access to discounts maybe for smoothies, and you can use all the machinery and equipment. But the exciting part of the utility token is if that gym is very successful, the concept, and other gyms grow, the valuation of your membership goes up. So eventually, if I move to another area or stop using the gym, I could sell my membership at a higher price that I bought it, and I could actually not only have used the gym for all that time for free, but make money.
Right.
Isn't that, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's
example?
exactly it. If you have a multiple utility token such as ours, our CHSB token, each time you're bringing in a product and a service, and you're essentially growing the ecosystem, you have a token that could be used rather than staking it, rather than paying it. So you'll have more and more value that goes to it, which is really good. What you could have as well in a share, though. Again, it's not just the main difference again between the share and a utility token is that one is backed by a centralized government. The other one is based on the trust that you have with a network. And you don't not one or the other is better. It's just that it depends, where you're putting your trusts, and if you really want to use that token within the ecosystem, or just want to be a passive investor. And if you really want to be a strong believer in crypto, I think so you need to use crypto. You don't need to invest only in crypto, but actually you need to use it. It's great to have Bitcoin, as a store of value, but the best thing to do is to actually to buy Bitcoin and start using it. If not, it's just going to be another investment, investment vehicle, which is good enough, but it's not the main thing. The main thing is to use the technology and not actually to just invest in it.
Absolutely. There are pros, like you said, there are pros and cons to both utility and security tokens. Personally, I agree with you. The multi-utility token for me is more exciting, but yeah, everyone has their own preference. There's one topic that I really want to ask you about, Sai, because I know this really is deep into your heart.
Right.
Recently, it's the DAO.
Right.
And I know you talk a lot about shareholder-centric versus community-centric recently. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on that? I know it's really important
for you. There's two different models, right? There's the DAO model, which has no sovereignty and has a strong alignment, and then you have the regular limited company. And we were in a world in the 20th century where you had a king was CEO and maybe queen, their board, and then you had users, and people were being shoved up products and services. And essentially users didn't have a word to say whatever they bought or wanted. Then we got to a new stage where you still had the king and the queen, and essentially you had the users, but you had users as well that could starting to have peer-to-peer services like Ubers, all this Uberization where you had actually taxi drivers and as well Airbnb hosts for different apartments or houses, and you had a lot of different these platforms of Ubers, and I think so that's a great model. But the thing is that very often the user doesn't get rewarded as much as he can. Like the first Uber driver, we don't know who he is, but he actually essentially feeded the ecosystem. And did he get a great reward out of it? Not much, right? Where on the other hand, if you were one of the first Uber investors, you probably had probably 10,000% investment, and that's one thing that doesn't make so much sense. On the other side is that very often when you have this king and this queen, and then you have these different investors, in the beginning they're very fine about Uber, Airbnb launching their products and not making so much revenue. But then very often what happens in every investment in club or any investment VC, they start to flip their positions and they need to have stronger valuations. And in order to have stronger valuations, they very often need to essentially drive their company through a product service and really make sure that you're really squeezing out all the juice out of that company. And so it's really monetizing the maximum of their products. And then you see very often that there's a misalignment between the users and as well the shareholders and the founders of the company that are trying to please both of them. But at the end, it's very hard. It's rather you're extracting the juice and giving it all back to your shareholders, and you're creating not as good products, and as well making the prices even higher. What are they taking, for example, from the taxi drivers? And therefore there's a misalignment. And very often what could happen is that those same users that loved to be at Uber are going to go on a new platform because they're not incentivized actually to stay, right? And that goes on and on and on and on. Whereas in a DAO, like for Bitcoin or different other DAOs like Ethereum, if you're a developer, if you're a user, if you're whatever your role is within the DAO, you're completely aligned, and that has a very strong difference in terms of philosophy. You really have this meritocracy that's unique and is based on technology and is based on whatever you're contributing towards the DAO. And I think so that is a very winning model. It's more a type of tribal model that works much better, and there's no king and queen and there's no shareholders because everyone is at the end a shareholder.
Yeah, the misalignment part that you're talking about, I think, is the critical part, isn't it? Like going from shareholder-centric, where at the end of the day, if they're shareholder-centric, they will always favor the shareholders over the customer or the end user.
Yeah.
Do you believe as of today that SwissBorg is truly community-centric? And I know these words are really important to you because that was in the very first white paper. Do we deserve to use that word, community-centric?
Yeah, I think so. We always put at front our community. I mean, right after our ICO, less than 2 months and after, we had like already a first referendum. And I think so it's a great thing. I was just yesterday with someone from La Token. He was saying how cool and how empowered he feel about being able to vote what was the future sake of our company and our DEO as well. So the great thing, as I said, he said, is like, it's awesome because I voted for the mobile app and we just launched our mobile app yesterday. It's a community app. It's not the wealth app that people want probably, but it's still the first community. It's for this community app, which is really awesome, and that enables us even to swarm in even more. So we 100% believe that the community will always dominate the model, and it's very Swiss based because in Switzerland we're only the one real democracy I think is in the world. We're actually the individuals have more importance than anyone else. There's no big politicians that rule the world. That rule the country. There's no real president that takes the decisions. It's actually the citizen itself, and I think so every country should be led like that, and even more every organization.
The funny thing is, when it came to that referendum, right, where we had to vote between the desktop or mobile version,
Right.
You're not going to believe me, but I voted for the desktop version.
Same too. But hey.
So we're there from the very beginning, but the community voted for the mobile app, and thank God they chose the mobile app because there's so many desktop exchanges or ways to accessing cryptocurrency.
It would be much faster through the desktop. That was my point. But hey, I'm very happy that we have this community app, and I'll be very happy we'll have the wealth app quite soon.
But I do think you have a really good point that 25,000 people within SwissBorg community not only funded the company but also made the most important decisions. So there is some sort of community-centric approach. So that's very, very cool. There's one more thing. You often talk about control your wealth. So that's one of the taglines that you love the most.
Right.
Why control your wealth? Everyone talks about how the blockchain is the trustless protocol, or it's a relationship of trust thanks to technology rather than revolving on human error, human flaws. But why control your wealth? Why are you so attached to that?
Obviously blockchain is resolving a lot of problems. It's reducing intermediaries. It's providing more transparency. It's bringing more accessibility, which is one of the greatest things. But controlling your wealth is extremely important. If you're not in control of yourself, or you're not in control of your purpose, you will always fail. And every company today, we are really reluctant to actually control what we're doing, right? We're all on Facebook. We're all providing our data. And I love Facebook, by the way. And then we realize that we're becoming products. And that's okay till maybe 2019. But maybe in 2020 or 25, that's not going to be okay. I mean, if you want to give publicly your data, that's cool. But why not selling it? And why not getting at least rewarded, like through Steemit, for example, which has really a great way to reward people through their social media platform. And I think so. One of the main components of blockchain and why it's so strong, it's actually because we could control that data. We could actually be the masters of that data. And that's exactly what we want to do at SwissBorg. We want to make sure that you're not buying into this fund, you're actually buying into an indice. And buying into this indice, you should be, making sure that you're having all the underlyings within that indice. And on the longer run, you have to make sure that you have, control over your wallet. And that will go for everything regarding data, because data at the end, it is today what's called the most valuable thing in the world. Every company today that is in the top 5 or top 10 is only about data. It's not about commodities. It's not about finance. It's about data itself. And that's where the value is. And that's why we have to make sure we're controlling our wealth. And our wealth, for me, is just data.
It's just data. Yeah, that's really interesting. You tend to have this, I think since you were a kid and since we were kids, you always had that eye, that vision of what's going to happen. Even when we were breakdancing, remember?
Yeah.
You'd call a new move, and then a year after in a battle, we would see that move, and you're like, oh shoot, Cyrus called it. Obviously, you did many things in the past that I've seen. You know, when you called me up to buy Ethereum in 2016, it was at $8 Ethereum. I didn't listen to you, unfortunately, which was a stupid move. But you have a tendency to see things before they come. And one thing I remember you told me that's really important for you, and I don't think you've actually mentioned this in a public setting before, but you want to monetize data. So your dream is to create a wealth management platform where people no longer need money to invest, can use their own data. Is that possible or just a dream of yours?
No, I mean, it's totally possible. It's exactly, I mean, this is not officially what we're going to do, but most probably just talked about it. So in our on the community app, we're able to forecast if things are going up or down. Well, one of the main thing we want to create is a swarm indice. So people will be able to say if it's going up or down, and based on, you know, the 10,000 or the 50,000 people that will be forecasting on a daily basis, we will have some very good people that will be able to predict it in a very good manner, and making sure that on a daily basis, we try to see who are the best of these guys. So based on that, which they're anyways doing because they want to know if they're investing or not, we will create a swarm index, and that swarm index will be data, just people clicking on it. And if they're part of that swarm index, we'll then obviously reward them, and they'll be part of our platform where people will be able to copy that indice or buy into that indice, and each people who will be part of that committee of that swarm indice, well, they'll get rewarded. And that's a very fair way just to say, okay, is it going up or down? It looks like an easy question, obviously, but if you answer more than 51% of the time right, that means you're very smart or you're very lucky. But on the long run, that means probably you're very smart. So that's a very good way to monetize your own data, which until today it was very difficult to do that. And going forward, we'll have more and more, consumer behavior in terms of, financial industry, and you'll be able to monetize that. And same with other different social media platforms. I'm very sure that soon as that you want to get your advertisement, then they'll have to pay you X amount to make sure that you're actually attributed and you're getting rewarded. Yeah.
That's really cool because it's a wealth management without needing wealth.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that is definitely, hopefully the future will lead that way, because if someone doesn't necessarily have lots of wealth but they have access to data,
right?
Hopefully they can be a part of this and not.
And it already goes with the same philosophy that you have in bounties, right? 2% of our token supply was distributed to bounties because a lot of awesome people around the world helped us for translation, helped us to push, on Twitter whatsoever, did some different videos, and that's a fine way as well, is that you don't need to start to. Going forward, we're not going to be able. We won't have to be millionaires to become multimillionaires, or we won't have to have $100,000 worth of whatever to be a millionaire. You could start going forward more and more easily because you'll have all the information, you'll have all the possibility to get access to it through blockchain and through different ecosystems. And it'll just, if you want to be wealthy, you could be wealthy, and in a lot of different ways.
That's really, really cool. One last thing, the other day on the Telegram chat, the SwissBorg chat, there are a few people were calling us the Blockchain Brothers. How do you feel about that nickname for the two of us?
Yeah, Blockchain Brothers, awesome, man. I mean, look, hey, we're brothers, so and we're in blockchain, so it's not the most creative, but I love it. Yeah, it's cool.
It's a good sound to it, right?
Yeah, the BB Brothers. Back in the day, we're the B-Boy Brothers, and now Blockchain
Brothers.
Yeah.
Good, Katrina. Thank you so much, brother, for the show. Awesome, great times.
Thank you. Good memory.
All right, guys. So don't forget to download the Community app, an app where you can forecast, learn, and earn up to $500,000 of BTC by just having fun with zero risk. Check it out, download it in the link below, and I'll catch you soon in the next episode of Cryptonites. See you.